We're back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. It's the Prof and OT.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Morning. It's morning time.
It's morning time. We done had a action-packed, informational-packed morning.
Yeah, I mean, just gosh, our homegirl, man, one of the most renowned environmental fighters in the world today, man. And to know that she's from here. You know, we've really produced some wonderful people here in this state, this city. Louisiana, it's not just the boot, the bottom, the bottom part of the shoe. We really have people who, in spite of, have attained all type of international and national fame, from athletics to with Sharon Levine, to intellectuals and academics like yourself. So we've done well in spite of the air we breathe and the bullets we dodge.
we just need a national leader. We need another leader. We haven't had.
Do we? I don't know, man. Everybody waiting on. I said the other day, everybody waiting on somebody.
Yeah, because somebody has to organize us and be able to place us in the best position to do the most good.
Well, one thing I know we need more August Collins seniors.
Hello.
We need more people like August, who have the bad night war boy who grew up, who dedicated his life to other wayward kids, children who didn't understand which direction, didn't understand the best in that. We need more people like that, bro. That's for sure. August Collins.
Good morning, OT. How are you, sir?
Man, if we were any better, Prof, we'd be him. Talk to us, man. First of all, August, you've been on this show, man. You people see you on the news, they see you on panels, talking about at-risk kids, specializing in kids and with the Youth Empowerment Project, a juvenile justice expert, reformist, activist, and I know that little boy from Edison. Out the lower 9, and I've never asked you before. Tell the people who August Collins is, who he was, and who he is today, and why you chose this line of work.
Well, it's hard to say why I chose this line of work, but I always had an interest, in helping people. Now, a lot of people find that strange from August J. Collins because I'm an only child, so I get the label as being a spoiled brat, having always had stuff and things of that nature. I always had a genuine interest in helping, people even at a young age. Also, had my hands in a lot of things and foolishness and things like that coming up. But at the end of the day, I always had the best interest of my fellow friends and young people under me. Started with my relatives and things like that. So, that's where I'm at with it. I care. I'm passionate. I'm committed about, helping young brothers and sisters and their families, at least make the necessary steps and transition into some type of healthy lifestyle.
Right. And you brought somebody with you, man. Alexander Mentee. Tell us a little bit about Alexander and have him share a few words with us.
Okay, well, Alexander was a young brother I met when he was 16 years old via teleconference from OJJ, and he was, I think he was locked up in Tallulah and Shreveport or something. I can't remember the exact juvenile facility, but it's a funny story because as they introduced us, his last name just happened to be Collins, Alexander Collins. So it was real funny because he was like, when they introduced, he said, "Well, we got your mother and Mr. Collins." And he's like, "Mr. Collins," and then relationship developed once he was released from detention, and it was a struggle. It was coupled with poverty, the environment, and then a little mental health issues and things like that. So, but he's grown. He's stuck with the program. The good, the bad, and the ugly. He was committed. It took him. He was committed to getting his high set through YEP, and he still comes around. He volunteers. He's 28 years old now. Wow. He's living a pretty good life for his age. He has a job in a supervisory role and things like that. great young man, but was one of the young men that benefited from the services and supports that Youth Empowerment and myself and other people at Youth Empowerment, staff and colleagues provided for him.
Alexander, so what was it that worked for you? We see so much here, the history of this town, especially with young black men who fall. Many get up, but plenty don't. What was it about your relationship with August? When did the light kind of click on, and you said, "Hey, you know what? I got it." When did that? What was that like for you?
When I transitioned and I crossed that threshold from juvenile to adult.
Right.
And as I told people, going in and out of a detention facility as a juvenile, it wasn't, serious enough for me. It was, a vacation away from home. But when I crossed over and, bumped my head a few times as an adult, and the judge said, "You know what, Alexander, we're going to sit you down for a little while." And I did those 4 months. That instantly opened up my eyes to realizing that what I do Monday can affect me Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and so on.
Wow.
So I had to make a conscious decision on what is it that I wanted to do. And coming to jail wasn't one of them. So, like Mr. August used to always tell me, the seed to your success starts with your education.
Right.
They can take your freedom, but they can't take away your education. Whether you're in jail, you can be successful with it. Whether you're on the street, you can be successful with it. Your mind, your education is one thing that no one can take away from you. So I devoted myself to doing it, and once I got released from adult, I actually surprised him. I got my GED in 2 months instead of 6. And, I started from going to school every day when I first got into the program at 16 to my attendance started to deteriorate. I would go once a week. Then it would go once a month. Then I would go once every 3 months. So it started to become like a game at that point. But Mr. August went from, like he said, that relationship went from a mentor to more like a father figure. So he took and put the books up. What the books tell you on how to be a mentor, and he approached it as a father figure, not a big brother, but as a father figure.
Right.
And something that I always hold on to was like Judge Mathis said. Sometimes we need a little tough love, and I got a lot of that from Mr. August. Tough love.
So go ahead and continue, please.
So that's what made me be hungry enough to want to change my life. And I applauded YEP and Mr. August because I was one of those children that a professional person will burn out easily. Most programs, they have, you can come to this program in 6 months. You have to either exit or, go somewhere else. YEP, I was in this program from 16 all the way up until, now. I graduated at 25, but I forgot what they call it. The other side, the transitional side.
Right.
That's where I'm at now. So I've been in that for God knows how long. So I even help the staff do their part, plus help at the school, plus help, after school, whatever they need to get done. Because I always was a firm believer on don't forget where you come from. You got to give back. Each one teach one.
Was there a man in your life consistently before you met Mr. Collins?
No, because I grew up in a single-family home. My mama was my mother, my uncle, my daddy, my grandmother, my grandfather. She was the jack of all trades. She did everything. Mm-hmm. So when Mr. August came into the picture, that was a burden off of her and me, not just because of the services, but just to have that male's perspective on things. It helped a lot.
August, I wanted you to touch on two things. And Prof, you consistently say that young men and women who can think, who have an education, who understand it, very rarely are they involved in crime. And the statistics prove that out. 69% of juvenile offenders, especially violent juvenile offenders, are functionally illiterate. Yeah,
that's factual.
Right.
And it's tough love. I don't understand why we don't put these juveniles in a situation where they all know other options. You either do this. We used to send kids to the military where they get all the tough love they can get in a manner in which they can digest it. And we don't even do that no more. And I'm not talking about the kind of prison industrial complexes that I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the Army, United States Army, the Marines. Structure where they're going to learn, have an opportunity to further their education.
Right.
We used to do that, but we don't have a tolerance for doing that anymore.
Before we go to the lines, August, I've heard you say, and we have probably he'll get the line, but at some point. But I heard you say often that, and Alexander said it. He said, no matter what he heard, he said when he was a juvenile, he said doing time, all of that. He said he didn't even take it serious. He said it wasn't until his mind got in some adult mode that he even understood the seriousness of his actions and the implication and potential ramifications for him. August, do people get that? Do they really understand that? Because that these juveniles who are out there doing whatever they're doing, that their attitudes in many cases is, like he said, it's just like kids.
Well, until, a lot of them overlook their tomorrows until their tomorrows come. And, young people have, there's real creative ways how they can manipulate the system. They know how to adjust to certain programs and people that come into their lives. The only way I feel, and I think, and YEP feel, is just to build a healthy relationship and continue to provide the support. Alexander talked about tough love and some of the things he had did when he was in the program that landed him back in juvenile. Even though I was supportive of him, I supported him in a manner in which, our parents supported, us, OT down in that night ward. You can't do this, and we ain't going to do this. I'm going to give you the basics and the necessary things that you need to continue to grow. But all the other things we were doing, it came to a screeching halt. And young people think it's a game until they get into the adult system, and even trying to prevent that. I shared with Alexander, continue this juvenile. As soon as you do it when you make 17 or 18, consequences of the situation is going to change. And, he heard that enough. That was instilled in him enough so he had that aha moment and was able to, grab a hold of his young life and then make that paradigm shift and get on track to be successful,
We got to call up Brother Al Mims. Welcome to the Morning Show.
Hey, I just want to commend you, my brother, the mentor, as Vice President of the Fatherhood Roundtable. We have met many kids, but I want you to know every one size don't fit all. But I know one thing, that you wasn't intimidated by no young man. Am I right or wrong?
No, sir. I mean, my presence is who I am. I'm gonna love you, but I give respect, I earn respect, I demand respect because I'm a respectful man, and I approach it in a respectful manner. I'm honest, open and honest with the parents. We're open and honest. I'm not trying to change. I'm not gonna, make you think I could change the world or do this. But I know with the support that I provide, and considering and given what YEP provides, we could have your young person think and make a change in his mindset, because we all know once you begin to think different, then you do different. If you know better, you do better. That's just the way it is.
Thank you, Brother Mill.
Thank you, Alexander. Thank you, August and Alexander, for our listening audience. We're talking to Mr. August Collins Sr. and Mr. Alexander Collins. August Collins is one of our renowned juvenile intervention experts here in this town, and he's also a member of YEP, the Youth Empowerment Project, and one of his former mentees, now a young man, successful young man. Can we mention our way of this current crime wave? Alexander, do people really understand the mindset of many of these juvenile offenders? Wow, the streets are crazy right now with kids, with guns, with violence. Sometimes as young as 8 and 9 years old. If you could talk to grown-ups out there and tell them, do you think they get it, Alexander?
Honestly, no. I don't think they get it until they in that situation standing on the other end of the barrel, or they're a victim of these carjackings, or they have to go there and identify one of their family members because of these, juveniles being out in the streets. And I think it's like that because it's something you said in your conference with the chief of police. it's a universal thing. The system wide, whether it's the police, whether it's the nonprofits, whether it's the community, whether it's the individuals, the perpetrators, we have to be accountable for our things as individuals first, but we also have to have a second option. You know, when Mayor Landry was in office, something I noticed he did was midnight basketball, all of these different things for the youth. Now is things being taken away, but what are you going to replace them with? You're taking all of these after-school programs, but you're only leaving space and opportunity in these communities for these criminals to be better criminals. So if I don't have a second option, all of this energy and impulse is steady going to grow, and eventually it has to come out at some point.
All right, we got to take a break, and we come back. We're going to resume this conversation.
Important conversation. Right
here on WBOK, 1230 a.m. We'll be right back. We're back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. It's the Prof and OT. And, man, we got some very special guests here this morning, OT. Got Mr. August Collins, Sr. with Youth Empowerment Project, and Alexander Collins, a mentee of the program. Man, we're having a serious conversation with respect to mentorship and solving our problem with juveniles here in the city.
Yeah, August, you know, man, years ago, man, you were involved in this mentor-mentee explosion, man. You remember I was doing Boys to Men. We were doing conflict resolution. We had the program with Sally Ann and Kathy. Of course, brothers like you out there working with our kids. Is it time that we have that type of movement in this city again?
I didn't get the first part of your question.
Back in the late 90s, man, when we had that mentorship explosion, you know, where former Mayor Morial formed a lot of these task force. Remember, they had the summit, man, about adopting a kid in terms of mentoring. I was doing Boys to Men. You had Each One Save One. There was really a call of brothers and men. And it wasn't anything, you know, we have so many people talking about what can they do to help the council and help the mayor. But back then, there was people like going to the schools on their own, going to the playgrounds. Is that the kind of effort we need again, especially from men?
And definitely we need, you know, support from, you know, there's key players in the community that could pretty much help and get their hand involved in trying to curb and cut down on some of this violence and crime with our young people. Because, I mean, OT, you know, young brothers and sisters going to look up and respect and identify with who they can identify with.
Right.
You know, so we have to go into these communities. We have to speak to, you know, the elders, the grandparents, right, you know, some of the pastors at the churches in these neighborhoods, and find out exactly what is the need and what support the people feel that'll help, you know, that would help curb some of this violence and grab the young people. I agree. I think mentoring is definitely a way to go. I think calling a lot of brothers in and help educating them and coming up with a strategy and solution, you know, as a whole, as a neighborhood, you know, as individual neighborhoods, because there's key players there. I think it's needed again. I go back to, like, when I was in school, man. There was somebody at that school that was a parent liaison that could reach everybody parent in that school. And it was like, oh, he cutting up? Well, I know who to go call for him. I got his grandmother's number. I got his aunt's.
How about we call his daddy? Yeah, how about how we call the first mentor?
His dad was the daddy. Available. You know, if he was in the household, he was working and this and that. So, but we had women, strong women.
Well, August, you remember my aunt, Miss when did the mama, Miss Auntie Estelle?
Well,
I was that neighborhood parent liaison.
Everybody got a mentor. It's your daddy. And we got to stop letting the daddies abandon the family. Let's start there with mentoring. Let's start with making the daddies. I don't care if you liked her, you loved her, you didn't know her. But if you was with her and you made that baby, you gonna be responsible or you gonna be locked up. Oh. James, welcome to Good Morning Show.
Hey, that OT, good morning.
Good morning, James.
You said something that resonated inside me right before the break. And Prof, you right on point. But what I want to do is I want to back out the way because there's old men talking. This young man need to get up here and tell us something.
Yes.
So I want to ask this young man, at his lowest point, what was the common theme in his life that kept pulling him back to that low point?
I was thinking about that too, James.
Point,
yeah.
What was the common theme?
Great question.
Besides him realizing, or if I do it again, I'm gonna be in trouble. Like what? That don't matter to these kids nowadays. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to establish the link between your low point and your high point personally, young man, to find out what it is you could provide for us that we need to provide to these children.
Thank you.
I'm going to hang up and I'm going to listen.
No, James, my mind was thinking the same thing, capturing that pivotal moment. And Alexander, I know sometimes it's tough because I've talked to kids who don't want to publicly share that moment, that issue was personal. But if you can, I think it would help a lot of people. What was that pivotal moment where it was at your lowest and what you had done, and then that one moment that actually inspired you that said, "Hey, man, you know what? I got it now." Alexander.
It was me knowing, like, to piggyback off what Mr. August said, he wanted to help people. So I found early in juvenile that I wanted to help people and be a part of my community, but when I got released, I there was some officers in my community that impacted me positively. So I kept that, and it made me want to become, an officer at some point. So, but knowing that I wasn't at that point yet, I had my hands in a little bit of everything. Doing school, going to different community programs without finishing. So I was trying to rush my life to get to where I wanted to be without crossing my T's and dotting my I's correctly. So it kind of backfired on me and caused me to be in trouble. So it's like I said, the impulse and me wanting to rush things instead of being patient and doing it the correct way. And, dealing with different things, the impulse control, ADHD, all these different things I was dealing with at one point, and I didn't want to own up to it that I needed help, whether it was the mentor, whether it was a hospital, whatever it was, the support. I needed that extra support. And it was then when I received it at my lowest point, Mr. August, he didn't pull me. He didn't push me. He walked side by side with me through that entire ordeal from then up until this day. He walked side by side. So at my highest point, when I graduated and I saw that once I tackled the basics, which is the high set and getting me together as a human being, as a young man, the opportunities came to me. Like rain coming out of the sky, they just started pouring to me. So at that point, I just had to decide what it is that I wanted to do with my life. And a lot of times I find that us youth, we make decisions based off what other people want us to do and not what it is that we want to do. We have to understand that it's our lives. Mm-hmm. It's okay to take the advice and the support, but you have to find what it is that you want to do. And you have to be willing to fight, have those sleepless nights, have those, inconveniences to get to the other side of the finish line. And when you get there, don't stop.
So if I can kind of to James's point about the lowest point, and based on what you said when you opened up, is that when you transitioned from teenager, juvenile to adult, it was that moment with that judge when you thought when you were looking at your freedom. Is that what did it for you?
No, it was actually when I got processed in Rivers Correctional Facility, and I saw that, if you didn't eat bread, you was going to starve. If mama sent you $500, you can only spend $40. It was those small things that I was like, no, we're not going to live like this. So I had to tell myself, in order for you to not live like this, you have to do something different. Right. So I had to think about what I'm doing today and how is it going to affect me tomorrow and the rest of my life.
And the other part is you saying your mind, when you were juvenile, your mind didn't even process it like that because you were locked up as a kid too. But your mind didn't process it like it processed it once you reach adult age.
Right.
504-582-9422.
Yeah, ain't no more ice cream. Yeah, you ain't get no more popsicles and ice cream. Not in props prison. Yeah. I'm just telling you. You heard it firsthand. The situation changed.
But tough love don't work for everybody, bro.
Yeah, it do. Yeah, it do. It just depends on how tough you willing to get. And we ain't been willing to get tough enough. We have not been, especially when it comes to juvenile.
I have to meet my people where they are, man. And a lot of people don't want to get down and dirty in the trenches, but in order for to have success, you have to be there, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, preparing that soil is just as important in planting that, that seed for that crop to grow, man.
I want to stay right there, and Alexander, you can weigh in too. But August, at our hearing the other day, and we've had several hearings. We got meetings again, and today, man, I haven't been getting home till 11, 12 at night, but it's okay, man. It's worth it. One of the things was mentioned, and Brother Hakim, one of our mutual friends and partners, reminds us all the time. We have too many theorists and too many people who are more academic than practical involved with our young people, because I think it was said that we need more folk who understand the street, understand the kids, and understand the community. Are we taking too much of a top-down approach to deal with especially some of this adolescent and juvenile behavior?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think we're taking a top-down approach as we moving forward. I mean, it definitely has to go back. And I mean, there were guys in my friends' parents and dads in the neighborhood that held order, man. You know how that was. And, they held order. Mm-hmm. Mr. So-and-so, nobody played with him. Everybody respected him when he spoke, pick up the trash on the street, get off the corner. We responded to that. And I'm gonna go back to even myself. I can only identify with individuals that I could identify with, and I looked up to that I could relate to. I probably wouldn't be successful probably in California or somewhere else. I'm successful in my city and my community because this is who I am, and this is what I'm a part of. So definitely, we have to begin to empower some of these guys that's sitting around on the stoops in these neighborhoods, some of these unks and OGs, and get them involved and get them to be able to speak to these young people and try to get them to see things differently. And like Alexander said, walk side by side. We can't continue to criticize them and challenge their way of thinking and the things they believe in. You have to embrace that, and then great mentors will digest that and then try to come up with a plan or approach to make it specifically for them at that point. Right.
All right, we got a caller, Miss Treese. Welcome.
Good morning, Miss Treese.
Good morning, you guys. I just was listening to what Mr. Collins and Alexander saying, and they're absolutely correct. It all starts with connections and relationships. Mm-hmm. And when everybody run around talking about, what we can do, and I try and give them the first very simple thing all of us could do is come from out our backyard and go outside and just start talking to our neighbors again.
Right. That's
period. Because once you start knowing the kids, like the kids from around the corner, the kids up your block, you start creating relationships and connections, and then you don't have that mentality where, you can't tell nobody kid nothing. You're right, you can't tell a kid nothing if your first time talking to them is to criticize them or try and, tell them what to do. If you have a connection and a relationship with them, then you can tell them anything. Sure. Yesterday I had like 10 children knock on my door, all boys from the ages of 8 to 12, asking can they come in my backyard to jump on my trampoline. You know why they did that? Because I've always opened my house up to them, my backyard up to them. They from all around the corner. I told them no, and they went about their business, and they came back 20 minutes later and gave me some cupcakes from a party they made. It's about relationships, connections. That's the simplest thing all of us could start. Everybody say, what can I do to help you? The first thing you can start doing is walk outside your door, start talking to your neighbors again.
Miss Treese, let me
stop
say,
walking back and forth, stop passing them up just to say good morning.
Miss Treese, before you go, I have, like I said, we've been in so many meetings, people figuring stuff out. We're overwhelmed with some of this violence and youth, indiscriminate violence, and you've been, what your comment has been in my brain is like everybody's calling from all over They want to help. And I thought about it and I prayed on it. And it was like, you don't have to be part of a city council program. You don't have to be part of a mayoral program. You don't have to be part of the governor's program. You don't have to be, but you can go right in your own community where there's a school, where there's a park, where there's a family. And but so everybody's saying, well, I need to come to City Hall to help y'all figure this out. And man, you just clarified it. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
You can do it right there where you live.
Everybody's neighborhood,
right.
That family, those parents and those kids that need help is somebody's neighbor.
Great point.
So if you just walk outside and talk to your neighbors, then you're going to start finding out which families in your neighborhood
need help.
are the ones that need the help.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
But OT, to that I'm gonna say this.
Talk to me.
Is that part of the role of government? Is the government know who it is? We got school records. We got economic records. We got everything.
Well,
we
they
know
whose behavior.
We know behavior. We know
at risk.
We know at risk.
Opportunity.
We know all of these
delinquent.
things, and we turn a blind eye to it because it fuels other aspect of our majority society. So we know who it is. We know that in neighborhoods that have higher wages, better educated people, that they don't have the same level of crime. They don't have no kids walking the street aimlessly in my neighborhood because the kids is at home doing homework. Their parents are educated. They got better jobs. We know this. No. So how long we gonna talk about it and instead of fixing what the root cause of the problem is? Single parent homes, poor education, right. Jobs.
Yeah, but there's another reason why they're not walking aimlessly in your neighborhood. Them dogs.
Yeah, of course. It's called a deterrent.
Get Jonah on the phone, man.
Jonah, welcome to Good Morning Show.
Jonah.
Hey, good morning, y'all.
Good morning,
Jonah. I know I called a couple of weeks back, maybe a week back, and told you about the little guy that broke in my house.
Yes.
13,
yes.
14. Well, what happened with that, man, like I said, I talked to him, pulled him on the side. I didn't call the police on him. I said, look, y'all going to come to clean this joint up. And every time I see him in the neighborhood and not in school, I say, bro, why you not in school? Oh, well, we doing virtual. I said, all right. I said, look, let's take care of y'all business. And I get on their behind, and that's what we have to start doing,
yep.
OT.
Yep.
We have to start doing this old school thing. And like you said, nowadays people are scared to talk to them.
Yes, they are.
Because, so much of stuff going on and the stereotypes. So they're scared to, interact with these kids. OT, I voted for you. And I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
They have some parents out here, man, that don't know what to do with these kids. If we could set a hotline up or something where they can call and say, I don't know what to do with them. My kid is out here robbing, and I know he's doing this, but I can't do anything with him. And we could hook him up with the Saints of, some of the organizations like the Silverback, try to hook them up with that because some parents really do care, but they can't do anything with them, and they don't know who to call.
Mentoring hotline, I like that, man. We're going to suggest that now in our meetings. Thank you, Jonah. Alexander, back to you. You've been in the juvenile justice center, juvenile detention system. What could have happened there differently with programs? What type of interventions could have happened there that would have prevented you, or you thought would have helped maybe prevent you from going to the adult system?
Opportunity. I think opportunity is a universal, alternative to the adult side and the juvenile side. And the reason why I say that is because even in a single parent household, where the children are struggling, that opportunity to either go to after school or that opportunity for like a YEP to step in and to catch the kids those 2 hours or 3 hours after school, to keep them on their homework, to keep them on track. Being proactive, catching it ahead of time, or even catching it when it happens, still having opportunities available regardless of when we catch you. Because nowadays, the crime isn't happening because the police are not there. The crime is happening because of the lack of opportunity, the lack of access to opportunities or services like YEP or, different things of that nature.
I'm sorry, we lost
the lines. Brother Joe Mo.
Joe Mo, God bless, man. You're wrong.
Good morning, man.
Good morning.
Y'all can hear me?
Yeah, yes, we can hear you good.
I know children, they understand right from wrong, but their brain don't get into weighing the consequences.
Right.
So years later, when their brains can process, they have become sociopaths. So we can't just teach them right or wrong. We have to make sure that we provide their basic needs to keep them from referring or resorting to crime. Now, I begin with the premise that I come from God and that God is in me and that I'm human, that I wasn't born a criminal. I don't blame these children. They were not born criminals. They wasn't born thinking that way. The community let them down. The system let them down. I remember one time y'all had a guest on from the Calio, and a brother did some time. He became an author, and the professor said that you were doomed from the start. So we can't keep blaming the victim, right? You can't say, if you say it's the parents' fault, it's education fault, it's job's fault, it goes before that. Mm-hmm. That can't be the root cause. Why don't we have the proper education? Right. Why do we have single parent home? What's causing these things? So I have a question for my brother, the professor. On more than one occasion, you compare my people to animals, my brother, or something that's not human. So the question is, do you believe my people are animals, or are you saying we just behave like animals, Professor?
Well, thank you so much, Joe Moore. It depends on who your people are. If your people are the ones out here robbing and killing and acting like animals, animalistic, instinctive type of behavior, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You don't believe that?
Yeah, and I'm going to blame your mama.
You don't believe that?
I do. And I'm going to blame, you know why I'm going to blame the mama? Because it starts with her. She had to give birth, and if she don't identify the
That's
father,
a reactionary comment. You don't believe that?
It's not a reactionary comment. I believe it. If your people are the ones out here robbing, shooting, killing, doing all of these animalistic things, thinking without any thought other than my personal survival, because that's what animals think. Animals act out of instinct. They want to survive and procreate. That's all they want to do.
That's how Bull Connor thinks.
Well,
that's what David Duke thinks.
Well, that's what they're doing.
What about the precipitation?
That's what they're doing. I understand the difference between humans and animals.
You know, the playing field has to be level.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I understand that. And we all have family members. I mean, I have family, probably some of my young family members creating havoc on the street. It's not because, you know, opportunities, you know, wasn't there for them. I mean, at some point it becomes a part of a culture that has grown and became a culture within our own culture that we have to take back. It goes back to people sitting on a block, you know, in there, like the young lady said, get out and know these young people. I'll give you an example. When I was living on Warner Street in the East, you know, I was the youngest family person on the block. Everybody that was on the block had been there older than me and had owned it and was owning their homes already. So they used to tell me, I don't know how you mess with the young people, man. These cats like that. I was like, well, y'all don't take the time to speak to them. Yeah, the young man walk down the block every day. And if I would come outside, I'd be getting out of my car and under the carport, I would speak to him. I spoke to this young man for about 2 weeks straight. Yeah. Every time I seen him, what's up, young fella?
Yeah.
And he's like, how you doing, Unc? How you doing, Unc? And then one day he was walking with 6 of his buddies, and he was coming up the street. And before I could speak to him, he spoke to me. You know what he told his friend? He said, OT, speak to me every day I'm coming home from school. Yeah. He always has something positive to say, and I refuse to let him be the first one to speak to me. That transcended into all those young brothers every evening, walking down Warner Street off the shelf, you know, heading in back on by Old Street and all their neighborhoods and all this here. They began to speak. I was able to engage with them, you know, encouraging them to stay in school, focus on this, get a job. Some got jobs at Raleigh, Burger King, Winn-Dixie, and things like that. Simple things like that makes people feel like they have a purpose. They're a part of the community. We have people in all these neighborhoods that's there every single day that can help make the change and help some of these young people by just hearing their story, trying to walk alongside them and encouraging them and support. And even trying to understand their family dynamics, because you see it, we see it. It's not one generation, it's 2, 3, and 4, and 5
Where the daddies at?
So we understand that.
Where's the daddy?
We want to get there because
not nobody else.
Where the daddy at?
People that's sitting around in the neighborhoods every day.
Where the dad is at? OT, you had a father? Well, the children just are not miraculous. Jesus was the last one that was miraculously born without a daddy.
You know, you
David was his dad.
Whoever. Joseph. But here's
Where
a
the
man
dad is at?
that never had the privilege to say daddy, and it was the support
But why?
of people like
That's your root cause.
slapping me on my head as his aunt that was at that was his aunt that was at the school, man.
Right.
These people held us down and put us in our place.
August, I want to touch. But Jimbo said something important, though, Prof. That we can't just kind of slide over that. He said if we know these issues, right, and in August, you more than just a YEP, especially you're a social scientist. You've dedicated your life to the theory and all of the science and to all the social ills. You know all those things, man. And Jomo said, well, why haven't we begun to deal with those things, those dysfunctions in the family? Why haven't we begun to deal with the mental health aspect of how, especially a juvenile, in an urban environment, in a high-risk environment, how their mind works? So we can talk about the consequences of their actions. Then where are the resources that are dedicated to the family? Where are the resources that are dedicated to the mental health of it? Because those things are real. Are they not, Alexander?
Yes, I agree totally 100%. But my answer is as simple as this. Our politicians, stakeholders, and these organization executives approach the situation as a dollar over our overall success. And I ask this question to those people in those positions that's listening. Which one is more important, a $100 bill or the success of these children, grandchildren, these youngsters? You know what I'm saying? Because if you constantly say, oh, I don't have enough money to, help this young person turn around and become successful, then we as kids start to look at it as we're not even important because you prioritize the money over our quality of life, which, it's understood that in order to have those things, we have to pay for. But it's not always about the money. Sometimes it's always about having a person like August being there. Sometimes it's like you say, having that person in the community that just have their phone line open just because, when I get out of school, I can call and talk to. It's a variety of things that we can do to catch these things before they spiral out of control or even catch them as they occur.
We got another caller. Anthony, welcome to the morning show.
Hey, how y'all doing? Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Look, a lot of the comments on how we was raised and in the neighborhoods, you should do this and should do that, all of that sounds good. And at my age, we had that in our neighborhood too, right? If you look at a lot of neighborhoods, especially in New Orleans, right, in the neighborhood I was raised in, everyone had a fence around their yard. You have no enforcement. If you don't have no enforcement, all the other things that you talk about don't help you. The number one problem is the enforcement. So you can complain about the fathers, how we was raised. You complain about all of that. None of it is not working. Why? Because we have not been getting the enforcement at the top. If you don't enforce and have the policies and the rules that you're supposed to have at the top and get the criminals off the street first, and then deal with all the rest of that later. If you don't have that, and you have the politicians just keep lying about the stats and lying about this, and you don't want to confront the chief, you don't want to confront the mayor, you don't want to confront nobody at the top, right? Then all that other stuff about the way we was raised in our neighborhoods and how it used to be and this, that, and the other, all that stuff not going to work. Know why? Because every time you say, oh, can we please stop the violence? Can we stop the killing? Have they been stopping yet? Have they been stopping yet? It's been escalating and escalating and escalating, and it have not stopped yet. Know why? Because the enforcement at the top is still playing politics and games and not getting the criminals off the street. Ask how many criminals are being gotten off the street per week. How many felons per week? Get the stats of all that. How many of them been getting off the street? Ask those type of facts, right? Because you hear it from other media. You hear it from other media. Why you can't get it from the media, Jimmy, about the fact of how many felons been getting off the street per day, per week here in New Orleans?
Thank you, Anthony. OT, before we break, because we only got a couple of minutes left, tell us more about the organization YEP.
YEP.
Well, yeah. YEP. August, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Well, Youth Empowerment Project was started in 2004. Our primary angle was providing services for young people that was returning home from juvenile detention. And then one of our co-founders and executive director, Ms. Sawyer, as I began to work with her back in 2006, I was going into these households and meeting these young people, and I seen there was an overwhelming need of, they had younger siblings following behind little Johnny. There was a little Billy behind Johnny. Johnny was 16, got into some juvenile trouble, was released. I'm providing support and services, but then he had a little Billy behind him that was 12 years old. So, we have a system that's created where young people can only get help unless, that system was designed to help young people that was already involved in the juvenile justice system. But then opening up the door, creating other programming that YEP did, like after school, community-based mentoring, our high set program, our summer programming, allowed us to reach kids that hadn't even much began to peak in or even step toward delinquent behavior, providing necessary supports to their families, giving them a safe space, creating a dance team, creating a drum line, giving them an area to play basketball, safe haven, giving them snacks and meals in the evening time, giving them access to computers to complete reports or even have access to internet services. So those things has displayed and has proven to work. We also have programming in St. Charles Parish and on the West Bank, and we're looking at programming in New Orleans East and other neighborhoods. These things proven to help stabilize young people and allow them to think differently and have an opportunity to make transitions into healthy young adult lives or young teenagers, et cetera, et cetera. But to attack the crime issue with these young people, and to go back to the last call about the enforcement. The enforcement, we went through mass enforcement years ago, that put a lot of brothers in jail, took a lot of fathers away from their families. So if we're going to talk about fathers being absent, that happened, in the 70s, in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s and 90s. A lot of these young people are growing up in situations that they don't have a father in their household. So having a mentor, having an adult in their neighborhood, I don't just mentor kids at YEP or kids that's involved with YEP. I take the time. I'm probably one of the only guys that'll pull over in the middle of the street when kids out there fighting and put myself at risk to stop this here, because that's the way it's supposed to be. I can't call a politician or point a finger at the politician if I'm not beating the concrete and walking the streets every day trying to save lives. They have work to do and other issues to deal with as far as from a political standpoint. But I'm talking about people that's in need in our neighborhoods that live among us every day. We could also have our hand in that and create opportunity. I was taken from the night ward as a kid and brought up to Huntersville, where I was, had the privilege to be a part of Tambourine and Fan with Jerome Smith. That helped me grow into a good teenager.
Thank you.
To a man,
Alexander, man, first of all, thank you, man. Hopefully we'll be able to come back and do this again. August, always, you've been on point. Thank you for what you do with YEP, as well as one of our leading intervention specialists. Guys, we appreciate y'all. God bless, man. Alexander Collins and the great August Collins Sr., man, what a great program, Prof. Hopefully we learned some things we're revealing.
Yeah, we do. But I still want them daddies. Yeah. Yeah, I want the fathers. I want to know who you are, where you work. If you're not working, yeah. Keep it locked right here to WBOK all day. Coming up next is The Front Porch with Courtney P. and Graylin B. Cultural conversation, great information on your number one station, OT, WBOK. Have a blessed